All right, all right.
All right.
We got everybody on?
Hello, Jen. How are you? Haven't seen you for a long time.
I know. How are you, Nick?
I am doing great.
Good.
Awesome. Harry,
Yeah.
good to see you as well.
Yeah, likewise. How you been? We've got Nick Lake. Nick, of course, comes formerly from Nielsen and from Andrews Distributing. And what are you up to now?
Heineken.
And Heineken. That's right. I forgot about that. What have you been up to lately?
Well, Harry, I retired last June, and I tell you what, it's one of these things where I was lucky to work for some amazing companies along with some amazing people. But this retirement gig, I love my boss. I love my own schedule. Literally the best gig I've had. And, I've been spending a lot of time with family and friends, playing a little golf, and I'm unfortunately not getting any better.
No, well,
I haven't gotten that hole in one yet. And doing a little bit of work in the community and some consulting with some friends. So staying pretty busy.
good. All right, good. Well, I wanted to touch real quick upon Molson Coors and AB had their earnings this morning, and there weren't any big surprises out of it. I wanted to touch on Molson Coors cutting 100 SKUs. Two things on that. One is it's very rare for a big brewery to cut SKUs, very rare. And the reason for that is because you might be in a part of the country and say, why is Molson Coors still making, Henry's Hard or whatever? Right. And you're sitting here in Texas saying, why are they still making that brand? And if you're in the Pac Northwest, it's a big brand, right? Lone Star is a huge brand in Texas, not a big brand elsewhere. Of course, that's Pabst, so I don't want to confuse the issue here. But Molson Coors cutting 100 SKUs, not a big deal to Molson Coors. In fact, it'll make them more efficient, longer runs. I mean, it's very clear why they are cutting 100 SKUs. They've done the math. The lost volume and sales isn't going to be that material to Molson Coors. What it is material to is a distributor in an area where one of those brands or SKUs that they cut is a big brand. And so, we're already hearing some grumbling about that, but it's kind of a bite the bullet type thing that I've always thought the big brewers have been over skewed for 20 years. And the only other point, the second point I wanted to make is that I don't know how many quarters in a row that AB has outperformed Molson Coors pretty significantly. And the divergence there is getting wider and wider with every quarter. In the past, since 2008, the two companies have been equally shitty. And now they're diverging, and it's not. I think it's just because AB just has more share and more muscle to be able to push more products and more breweries and more lines and more packaging options, and they just more chain. They have it all. It's hard.
But anyhow, scale matters in this business, and ABI's got scale. The other thing that matters is their innovation engine's been pretty good, as has Molson Coors. But that little brand they've got, Mick Ultra's got, it's got a lot of scale. And you look at what Mick Ultra Seltzer has done, and what Mick Ultra has done for retailers, and scale matters.
Yeah, I mean, Mick Ultra. Every time I run a 26.1 mile marathon, I always look forward to that first ice cold Mick Ultra.
I know what you mean. And in fact, I remember that last marathon we were at where I saw you.
Right. The fun run. It was the fun run, right? The charity fun run where we raised a bunch of money, you and I. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why they call it fun run, I guess, because it rhymes, but there's really there's no comparison between the word fun and the word run. They shouldn't even be in the same sentence, much less the same phrase. Anyway, you come from a long lineage of data mining, and you looked at numbers longer than most people have, and the numbers this year are screwy, obviously because of COVID. But what are you seeing, like this kind of seltzer softness that kind of took a lot of people by surprise this summer?
Yeah, you know what, Harry, first let's make sure we keep it in perspective, right? The seltzer softness is the segment is still growing twice as fast as any other segment in beverage alcohol, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, the slowdown in growth, to me, last couple of weeks, you've seen a lot of wringing of hands and gnashing of teeth, and I don't believe it's that much of a surprise, because if you think about how quickly it scaled up, okay, White Claw and Truly are literally mega brands, right? Both of them are in the top 10 brands in the category.
Right.
Think about two brands of that scale that quickly, how high is up, right? At the end of the day, you can only, you look back over the last 20 years, and the average consumer has only, I say only, the average consumer drinks 2.5 gallons of ethanol, right?
Right. Yeah.
So really it turns into a math problem. If there's 2.5 gallons of ethanol, seltzer scales up that big, it's got to stop somewhere, or you have to understand where you're going to continue to source from, right? Because half the sourcing is coming from beer, half of it's coming from wine and spirits. So where else is it going to come from, right?
Yeah, because wine, the spirits certainly isn't slowing down. No. You know, we haven't seen them slowing. Wine's slowing down a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I think it's has been coming from light beer and budget beer and wine mostly. And then
all the things.
Well, I mean, basically everything, like Jenn says, everybody drinks everything. And, but you're right. That's a really good point. We forget that per capita consumption of pure ethanol really doesn't change that much. I mean, it's been the same for 20 years. I mean, it's dipped up and down a little bit. And they say maybe it went up a little bit this last year just because everybody has nothing to do except drink. But yeah, we're all fighting, and seltzer is really just another form of this other carrier of ethanol that was so hot. But and it's it's premium. So I know it's definitely a win for the beer industry as a whole, because it's running through beer distributors. Most of it's malt based, and it's at a premium, even to premium beer. So it's definitely a trade up. I guess I'm surprised because seltzer's really still, even at 10-13% share off premise, much lower on premise. Like you said, nothing's ever grown that fast ever, right? Except maybe Miller Lite was a close, but even Miller Lite, it still took 5 to 10 years for it to get going. This took 2 years really. But the question to me is, it's only scratched the surface, I think. When I look at young people, really, people 21 to 25, I don't see anybody drinking beer. So, really it's older people that are carrying the traditional beer route. I guess there's just a limit to how much young people can drink. I mean, you would think there wouldn't be, but I guess there is.
Well, go on, Jenn. I'm sorry.
Well, and I had something to add on to that to ask you, Nick. Do you think that this is, and does it even matter? Is seltzer and RTD and that whole thing, is that a separate category? And if it is, from the main three, and if it is, what does that even mean, right? Like, to Harry's point about how big it could get, who drinks it.
Well, first of all,
you mean spirit-based RTDs, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Either. I mean, seltzer, RTDs, I feel like people throw them all into the same category, even though distributors don't want us to do that. Like, we can't parse that out from, the way that suppliers describe their own products. That whole seltzer RTD category, right? Like, is that, whether it's spirit malt based, maybe you do want to parse that out, but either way, does that somehow sit outside of beer, wine, and spirits to the consumer?
No,
Do they see that as different?
I really, you know what? I don't think so. And to be honest with you, Jen, I look at all this stuff, and I remember I got into this debate with a lot of craft brewers. Remember back in the day when early on when we were trying to figure out what a craft beer was.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? At the end of the day, the consumer doesn't care about definitions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The consumer, you go back to this whole deal of 2.5 gallons of ethanol, right? Consumer really doesn't care if it's malt-based, spirit-based.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to spend so much money on RTDs and ethanol. And so I think the RTDs, number one, I think they fold into the category, because to me, it's a question of how are you going to capture more share of that ethanol dollar? And really, there's only 3 ways to do it, right? You get more people to drink, you get them to drink more often, or you get them to increase their spend. That's the only way to do it. There's only 3 ways of doing it, right? And so, as you think about that, every time one goes up, the other one's got to go down. And the beauty of RTDs is it plays into some real unique consumer trends, right? A lot of them are low-cal, but more importantly, they're in cans. They're super portable. They're super convenient, and so they're fit, and they fit on occasions that are growing, right? The at-home occasion is growing tremendously. It's a quick, easy after-work occasion. It's a great barbecue, big family gathering occasion. So I think you're going to see that blurring continue. And I also, you think about it, you think about that whole deal that Boston Beer and Beam just made.
Yeah.
I've been around Jim Cook and some Beam guys, in my past life. These guys are smart.
Yeah.
They're smart. There's no question that there's going to be continued crossover, and there's huge upside in both.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say they're smart. I mean, come on. The shit it sells itself. Come on. They have great brands.
Yeah, I mean, when I say smart, they're no Harry Schumacher.
Great. Of course not. Nobody is. But those are some good points. I wish I knew what the Truly product is going to look like that they're going to come up with for Beam to handle. Still not a lot of clarity on that. Jordan, what are your thoughts over there?
Jim kind of hinted that it was going to be a vodka. I don't think he kind of let that slip on the earnings call that it was going to be a vodka. So I think it's going to be like some sort of truly flavored vodka. Kind of going back to the seltzer piece, I think we have just scratched the surface as a category, but kind of what Nick was saying, that those brands got really, really big last year, and it was like a perfect setting for them with everything going through the off-premise. And it's kind of what I was talking about yesterday, was for a brand like White Claw Variety Pack #1, that SKU was almost a top 10 brand, and it was just one SKU. I don't know if we'll see SKUs get as big as some of those were last year, just with all the new entrants and all the new innovation coming in.
And White Claw Variety Pack #3, that's your horse that you're riding.
Yeah, you keep bringing that up, and it is.
No, I want, because I want you to stand by your bold predictions. And
I do think it's going to be the #1 innovation in seltzer this year.
All right.
Well, hey, look, that's Jordan. With all due respect, brother, that is not that's not really a bold pick.
Well, thank you, Nick.
Let me see. The biggest brand in the segment.
Yeah.
And
He's talking about for all beer.
Oh, okay. Well, I still am. I'm still not gonna.
Well,
I'm still gonna push you a little bit. You're not really extending yourself on that.
But
they're giving me a hard time. So I thank you.
Part of this
Not
is,
me, Harry.
Part of this is me joke is kind of a running joke with Jordan, because he keeps bragging about how lording it over everybody, how he was the one who predicted number 3 was going to go
Not
off
true.
the tables. And
Not
Nick,
true
what's
at all.
what's happening here, Nick, is as you know, Harry, he loves to beat a dead horse. So
Oh, yeah.
that's right.
Oh, yeah. Well, I tell you, with all the innovation, all right, Jordan, I'm going to give you one here. With all the seltzer innovation, that was really bold of you to go up, because there's so many good brands, and there are, if you look at it, right, there's some pretty good innovation. Topo Chica is pretty solid, Vizzy's solid. The problem is there's so darn many of them that they're going to dilute, it's going to dilute the segment. And I would submit that a lot of retailers potentially have already overinvested in the segment, right? So, which is even going to help your pick even more, because if you think about the promotional nature of White Claw and Truly, retailers are investing in that brand. They're using it as a loss leader, right? They're using it, they use Bud Light and Miller Lite and Coors Light to drive traffic. So, I think White Claw and Truly are going to benefit from that, which is going to continue to let them build their scale and accelerate that scale advantage they have.
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't see a lot of these other seltzers other than the big 3, 4, the big 4 now.
Yep.
They don't have chain departments to speak of. They don't have, they don't have these automatic ends into the set that the big brewers have. Yeah. But on the other hand, like you said, the consumer doesn't really see a difference, but I'm sure they're scratching their head as to why there is a Coors Seltzer in the first place, because seltzer is a vodka soda, not a beer. And I think that's why those beer branded seltzers they're kind of slowing down to the point where Coors Seltzer slowed down to 0.
Right.
That's a big slowdown.
Some may call that a screeching halt.
Yeah. Yes. No, but will Bud Light Seltzer be here in 3 years? I mean, maybe. I mean, look, I said that Bud Ice wouldn't be here in 3 years. I said that 25 years ago. And look at Bud Ice. It's still rocking and rolling. And love that brand. Love it. Why don't they have a Bud Ice Seltzer? I don't know.
You know what? It could be on the
Could be.
Could be on the board.
Damn.
You're a bastion of innovation there, Harry.
Oh, listen, I came up with sour balls as a shot. Nobody has called me yet to take me up on that idea, but
don't forget about Wild Bubbles, which I think is marketable.
Yeah.
That could have some legs.
Well, Nick, thanks for coming on with us. Try to keep these short. What else you got? Anything else that's been bothering you?
No, what I've been spending a lot of time thinking about, though, and talking to people about is really the whole information space, right? So as you think about what's going on in the category and the blurring of segments that we talked about, and along Jenn's question, there's a lot of opportunity to cobble all this data, because there's piles and piles of data. And the question is, how do you take it from looking at market level data of Nielsen and IRI, but getting it to a spot where you can actually execute against it, right?
Right.
When you you started, Harry, about all the SKUs that Miller Coors is discontinuing, right? And how it may have a disproportionate impact on one distributor over the other. But if you think about it, most of these guys are stocking anywhere from 12 to 1,500 items in their warehouse, right?
Yeah.
Average grocery store stocks maybe 250. The average convenience store stocks maybe 110.
Yeah.
So now the question is, with all those SKUs out there, how do you maximize your share as a distributor or supplier, right? So that's a lot of the questions that I'm getting. And there's some interesting things going on that, eventually will see the light of day, that I think make a difference, because at the end, it's all going to come down to segmentation and knowing exactly how to execute in each individual store, right? There's 600 of them out there that sell beverage alcohol. It's how do you optimize each of those independently in order to win as a distributor and as a supplier? Because the idea of putting everything everywhere is probably not gonna fly, especially with all the category proliferation and crossover.
Right.
That's what's top of mind. It's been I've talked to several people about it, and I think it's really a case of how do you understand what's going to happen to the category, and how do you understand what's happening store by store, by having a better understanding of the shoppers of each of those stores.
Right. And the structure of the account base has changed. I mean, there's fewer on-premise coming back online. The ones that are coming back online are busier. There's more outdoor space. Whether people want to sit outdoors or not, they're going to have to.
Right.
There's so thinking about how your account base or your market has changed, you would think that your mix is going to change a little bit, your product mix. And for instance, like we got wind that AB is going to quit making loose bottles completely for on-premise, and I'm sure on-premise accounts are delighted because they, on-premise, they're not stupid. They always hated loose bottles because they charge more for them. They're charging more for a package that doesn't have 6-pack carriers or 12-pack carriers in it for on-premise, and charging more for that package. And anyway, I'm getting off topic. A lot of things, I think, the point I'm getting at, not very eloquently, is that the market's changed and the package has changed and the consumer's changed, and everybody else is kind of slow to catch up. This is going to take a year or two, I think, for brewers and distributors and marketers and everybody to kind of figure out what the landscape looks like. Because I don't think anybody knows, like, should we invest in sports? Should we invest in outdoor, like signage? Should we invest, the Olympics? I mean, what's the ROI on this year's Olympics? Who knows? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know viewership is down, but does that make the viewership more valuable? The ones that are watching, it's just like, feel like everybody's kind of just putting money where they always have because they don't know what to do differently.
Right. Yeah. Harry, and that's the essence of the question that a lot of folks are trying to get at, which is, it's how do I solve the John Wanamaker question of, I know I'm wasting half my advertising budget, I just don't know which half, right? It's how do you solve for that using all the data that's out there and understanding that from a retailer perspective. Retailers really, they don't care about brands. They care about brand X, whoever the retailer is. And then within brand X, they care about beverage alcohol, right? Or beer. And whatever happens underneath, they're simply trying to optimize what happens underneath so that they can use the category for what it's really, really good at, which is drawing traffic.
Right.
So,
It is a good traffic builder. It gets me into the stores.
It does.
So, I mean, although they do give free beer away at the end of a marathon, and so sometimes that's how I get my free beer.
You walk to the finish line.
No. That it's that whole charge to get that Mick Ultra at the end of the marathon.
That's right.
The fun run for the kids.
All right, guys. Well,
All right.
Thank you, Nick. It's good catching up with you. We'll
Good to
do this
see you,
again.
Nick.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks,
and hey,
Nick.
Nick, also thank you for drinking beer. I assume you're still a consumer.
I am still a consumer, and in fact, since I've retired, my beer budget has gone way up because I get free beer. So anyone out there listening to this that wants to help a retired guy out, A retired guy living on a fixed income, I might add.
Send Nick beer.
Send Nick beer. All right. We'll see you guys later. Let's do this again, Harry. Jen,
You
good
bet.
seeing you. Jordan,
Take
good
care.
talking to you.
Thanks.
And,